King.fm and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Inspiration, brave action, and heartwarming journeys. This is what the Louise H. Reed Show brings you. Now, here's your host, Louise H. Reed.
Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the Louise H. Reed Show. Thrilled to have you here this wonderful Tuesday with listeners in over 145 countries and millions of iTunes downloads and ongoing podcasts. I am the fortunate host with you each Tuesday at this time to bring you the stories, the journeys, and the inspiring messages from ordinary people doing really extraordinary things. So I am thrilled to have another amazing guest with me today. Her name is Shelly. I'm afraid I'm going to say your last name incorrectly, Shelly. Elsliger. And so before we actually hear from Shelly, I would like to obviously introduce her, share a little bit of info about who Shelly is and why she is on the show today. And before we do that, I would also like to remind you that you can find information about me, my coaching programs, as well as information about Shelly and my other amazing guests on my website, louisehreed.com. And so let me tell you a little bit about Shelly, because I'm eager to have a coffee chat with her this morning. Shelly is an engaging LinkedIn trainer and president of Linked Express. Shelly coaches executives, leaders, women leaders, diverse students and job seekers, as well as corporate teams, inspiring them to maximize their professional branding potential and their social influence online. Let me just read off a few kind of bullets that really highlighted the expert that Shelly is in this area. She's a member of the International Coaches Federation. Shelly is recognized as a woman you need to know by the National Women Speakers Association and a woman of achievement. Shelly was awarded the Global LinkedIn Ambassador Award and just recently made it to the global list of LinkedIn training experts. Shelly is also the LinkedIn trainer for Rotman Commerce at the University of Toronto here in Ontario, Canada. And so Shelly's diverse experience as a professional LinkedIn trainer and coach allows her to bring a unique breadth of knowledge as well as an aspect of fun and passion to all her workshops and speaking engagements, especially LinkedIn in high heels, Rise Up and Lead Online. Her signature workshop, that's what that is, her signature workshop aimed at helping women business leaders successfully own their space and their voice online. Shelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Louise. Great to be here.
I've just been so excited about having you on the show this week. The one thing that I read in your bio that to me just screams Shelly, and the Shelly that I have come to know, is about your passion and your enthusiasm. There are a lot of experts out there, and we can Google information, we can find all sorts of resources, using the internet through books. But I think what's special about you and what sets you apart as one of those experts is that that passion and that energy, which allows you to create these real connections with other people in a very genuine and authentic way. So that's why I love you, Shelly, and that's really why I wanted you, and I'm honored to have you on the show.
Thank you, Louise.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started? How did you get started in this field? Tell us a story about that.
So it's really interesting because in 2010, I was in Calgary on kind of an educational type event. And I happened to go down to Starbucks, and LinkedIn was there at the same conference as I was. And I decided to pay a coffee forward to one of the people who was from LinkedIn because I saw his jacket and normally they would be wearing blue jackets, but they actually wear red jackets. And I saw LinkedIn on his sleeve, and I had seen him at the conference, and I said, I'm going to pay a coffee forward. And as a result, we ended up sitting down, and I was telling him all of the things I wanted to do with LinkedIn, and as an educator, how important I thought that was. And we ended up sitting there for an hour, kind of skipped a little bit of the conference, and lo and behold, he became my mentor. And from there, Linked Express just got, bigger and bigger, but I always could go back to him for some advice, just in terms of the, behind the scenes on LinkedIn, and how I could make that also like an important part of working with LinkedIn. So doing my own business, but making sure to hold what LinkedIn was really about, because so many people made it into kind of an online resume, and it was never meant to be an online resume. So I wanted to make sure that we went back to ground zero and like to stand by what it was actually meant to be.
Yeah, you'll hear me say this a lot. I love all of what you just said. But the thing that really stood out for me is how that door would not have opened had you not paid that coffee forward. And so I find this kind of stuff fascinating, when we look at our own lives, the things that we feel compelled to do in the moment, how often we stop ourselves out of fear, or what would they say, or, we get uncomfortable. So we stop ourselves perhaps from doing something similar to what you just did, and look at what would have not been open to you had you not done that. So what made you, in that moment, what made you do that? And did you feel any kind of anxiety or nervous about paying that forward, or did you just do it?
I think I used to feel that nervousness around doing things, but I don't know how. I've just transformed, I think, working at it.
Yeah.
But no, in that moment, I just said, what could happen?
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? And I just took a chance. And I do that online as well now. So I just take chances, because that's what it's all about. And if you want to get to know people, people that are not in your line of communication, the ones that you work with closely, but you're looking to build something that's either global or outside of that comfort zone that you usually work within.
Yeah.
You have to kind of step out of it, and whether it's uncomfortable or comfortable for some people, you just have to jump. And I've learned that jumping has probably been the best thing that has happened to me.
I completely agree with that. And I think I was a bit of a slow learner. It took me to about the age of 40 to figure that out. And so I sometimes, I'm now that I have made that leap myself, I'm more open and aware to seeing others doing that. It's kind of like, I have 4 boys. I've got a stepson, three boys and a stepson. And when I first became pregnant, all I saw around me were pregnant people, right? And so it's just what you become aware of. So likewise, I now notice more when I see people taking that leap, that jump. Some people call it a leap of faith, or whatever sort of you want to call it. And that's really where the magic happens, I think, in life.
Absolutely.
When you make those leaps. And so if there's someone listening at this moment who is hearing you say that, and like, oh my gosh, I'd love to do that, but I'm scared. What advice would you have for them?
Fight your fear and do it anyway. I think that we all have a bit of apprehension when it comes to like just doing something that may not feel natural or feel comfortable. But after a while, with practice, it becomes part of who we are. Like, I look at what I do online, and if I had not jumped, I wouldn't have the network and the people pod that I have now. So I see the beauty in doing it. And I think that as we do it, we see how we can impact other people around us. Every time I get online, or even when I go to a networking event face to face, I always think I can be an example. So I can be a leader. And I don't mean the title, I mean the behavior. So I wake up in the morning, that's what I think, and that's what I do, whether it's offline or online. And as a result, I've empowered people to even get out of their comfort zones on LinkedIn. Because if you don't experience LinkedIn and you just build your story or your profile, how much fun are you really going to have? How much of a network are you going to build? How much impact are you going to have? So my idea is just, you have fear, just fight it.
Yeah.
Power over the fear. It's like the whole idea around imposter syndrome.
Mhm.
Many of us have it. And I think we'll always have those moments where we'll have it. But when I feel that imposter syndrome, or feel that somebody else could be better at talking about something or doing something, I just say, no, I can do it. And I just do it.
And it really is that simple. I remember it was a number of years ago now, probably around 10 years ago. I was speaking with someone. I was getting some sort of support. My head felt very noisy. I had a lot of things kind of going on, and I sort of couldn't see the forest for the trees. And he said to me, there are three things that I'm continuously hearing you talk about. So we were chatting for a couple of hours, and he said to me that I was doing all the right things on paper. So I was filling my bucket. I was filling my life with things and people that were meaningful to me. And I just felt like as soon as I had done those things, that I didn't feel any fuller than, even though I felt full in the moment, I didn't feel full once it was done. It was like it never had happened. And he said to me, you've got three holes in your bucket called fear, guilt, and shame. Mm-hmm. And that's draining your bucket just as quickly as it's getting filled. And there was a big conversation about that. So I don't expect that to be a huge revelation to anyone else right now. But the point of this was, I said to him, you're right. Mm-hmm. How do I stop that? And he said, it's as easy and as simple as just stopping it. I said, of course, right? And it seems so obvious. But to your point about, moving through fear, or doing it anyway, paying that forward in that moment when you feel compelled to do it, and then we think and stop ourselves, is to just move forward. And I think that success breeds success. So once you've done it a few times, it doesn't mean that you'll ever feel comfortable again, but you'll recognize either the self-sabotaging thoughts, like imposter syndrome, like you said, or you'll recognize that, oh yeah, this feels yucky, but every time I do follow through with this, it opens doors, or I feel great. And it makes shifts in my life that otherwise wouldn't happen.
Absolutely.
And so the simplicity of that is powerful. So I imagine that when you were a little girl, you did not think, I am going to be a LinkedIn trainer, because let's be honest, LinkedIn didn't exist when either of us were little girls.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, what did you want to be when you grew up, and how did sort of that story and journey unfold?
Well, when I was a small little girl, I wanted to be a vet. I love animals. I do a lot in rescue. I do a lot. I mean, it's just part of me. But I also realized that I didn't think that a vet, I would be able to actually do it. I wanted to be a vet, but I just knew I wouldn't be able to do it, because it can be a very difficult situation to be a vet, and I just didn't think that I could do it. So I went into education, because all my family pushed me into education, because they're all either principals or teachers or professors. And at the time, I don't think that I was the person I am now, in the sense that I was very influenced by what they thought, or wanting to have me stay back home in New Brunswick, where I'm from, a little place, and maybe work at the local school, which I did for a tiny period of time. But I always knew that I wanted to transform the way education was being put forth in the school systems. I always thought that I wanted to be a change maker. And so I didn't know how I was going to go about that. I mean, at age 6, I was given a Superwoman costume that my neighbor said, you can be anybody you want to be. And I still have that Superwoman costume.
I think that needs to get put in a shadow box and put up. I really do.
That's a good idea. And now I have one for like this. I have a little one and I have a big one. So I think when I got older, I did go into education. I spent a period of time as a professor, I think 10 years at least, but I still wasn't being fulfilled. And then I said, I have to find what fulfills me. So no, I didn't think I'd be a LinkedIn trainer, but I'm so happy that I found something that I really, really thought that I could use to impact education, but also to impact my career and to become a change maker. So I don't think I always thought that I would be a change maker. I just didn't know when it would happen.
And I think what's interesting about what you just shared, and thank you. I love the little story about your little costume. It's like your little girl costume and now your big woman costume, right?
Yeah.
Your grown woman costume. But it's about how it's not about the job title per se. And I find it interesting having not boys, but children who happen to be boys myself. And when I'm talking to them about what their future may be. The eldest is almost 15. I always try to take the conversations about who do you want to be? What are the things that you value? What do you enjoy? What do you not enjoy? And then we sort of figure out the job title after the fact, right? What that is then needs to align with all of those core pieces about who you want to be and how you want to show up in the world and how you want to impact others and why. And I think that's very, especially with you being in education, I'm sort of interested in your perspective on this, because I think certainly growing up for me, it was what do you want to be? It's not who do you want to be, exactly. Who do you want to help and how do you want to help? I am very, very clear whenever I say anything about when I was young and the influences obviously were my parents at this time. I couldn't have had a better childhood. So there's no parent blame going on here. That's for sure. But that's sort of that's how I came to be in a job for so long that I felt my soul was dying because I focused on what I was going to be. So yeah, so tell me a little bit about what your thoughts are on that, because when you told me your story about how you came to be that LinkedIn trainer, it's all of what is important to you and what Shelly embodies. Shelly, that's the job then that's sort of an opportunity after paying coffee forward came to be. So what are your thoughts on how you figure all that out?
I think my parents, again, great childhood, but parents who did the best they could with what they had and always thought that, hey, grow up in the small town, marry the neighbor, work at the local school. But one thing about them is that they never held me back. So very young and very early on in my career, I actually went to Iran and I stayed 3 months in Iran, and I taught a course to young women. And at that time it was seen as very, very like way out there that I was teaching this course on customer service to, women in Iran. So I think my parents realized at that time, she's our daughter, but she doesn't think like we do at all.
Yeah.
And so they pushed me to become the person that I wanted to become. And so even though they didn't always understand it, they always supported it. So even just like LinkedIn, they have no idea about LinkedIn. They're more Facebook people, but they love when I tell them that, I did this on LinkedIn, and they're always supporting me. So they've always pushed me to just be whoever I wanted to be. Took a long time to get there, but at the same time, I wouldn't have changed anything because I don't think LinkedIn would have come my way. And when I use LinkedIn as a way to really empower people to go behind the title. So if we take a look at how LinkedIn is built and the whole branding and tagline statement that falls under your picture, I use that a lot to work with people to say, really, what is your unique value proposition or point that you have to offer. And I want you to think about it. So I never say, let's just fill that in as quickly as possible. I take that and I use that as a catalyst for people to actually find out what they can give. And I want to empower people to be their own superheroes. So I don't want, when we have a title, we focus so much on that, but in reality, who are we behind the title? Because that's what's really going to impact others. So I'm always about impacting others.
So I'd like to just at this time pause for a moment and welcome anyone who has just joined us and has not missed, may have missed the intro. I have with me on the Louise H. Reed Show, Shelly Elsliger. Shelly is just talking to us about that right now, this moment about the power of LinkedIn and the work that Shelly does with leaders in helping them find their voice and share that online. And so those listening now, I encourage you, connect with me on LinkedIn, Louise H. Reed, Reed is R-E-I-D, and Shelly. And so Shelly, I'd like you to spell your name for everyone, please, because I think that anyone who believes that you were just talking about that unique value proposition right out of the gates. I want to challenge those listening to please go onto your LinkedIn, connect with Shelly, and look at your own, that sentence or two underneath your picture. Is that actually just giving a title? And you're making me think, Shelly, I'm going to check mine after this show. Or is that really showcasing the unique value that you have to offer as a human being and as a professional in the area that you are? So Shelly, please spell your name for us so people can find you on LinkedIn.
So it's Shelly with just one E, Elsliger, E-L-S-L-I-G-E-R.
Fantastic. So there's the challenge. There's one challenge. I always end the show with another challenge, so there'll be another one coming, folks, but there's one challenge. So today I'd like you to take a look at that tagline or whatever it is. Is there an official name for it? What's the name for that?
I call it a branding statement because I want people to really think about their own personal brand and their unique proposition. So but you'll see on LinkedIn, it's called a tagline. I think people should realize that if they don't customize it, LinkedIn will default to their title, because they have nothing else to work with internally. So that branding statement is actually the first part of the LinkedIn search algorithm. So it's really, really important that you think of keywords, the value you can offer, and the kind of person you are behind that title that we tend to use so often. So who are you behind that title? And kind of work on it without doing it online. First, do it on paper. Use that to kind of jot down some things before you actually transfer it.
I worked in, and I still do some consulting work in human resources. And I worked leading a recruitment, various different recruitment teams for quite a number of years. And so this reminds me of, that objective statement that people have at the top of their resumes. And so similar to what you're saying, Shelly, is I wanted to see someone's personality in that. Right, breathe some life into that. Using the same words, the same sort of flat words that everyone else uses doesn't really give me insight into how you go about doing your work. And so it does take a lot of time to craft that one statement in a really simple and impactful way. So those of you who I know right now, you are listening and you're on your LinkedIn profile, know that it's kind of like writing an essay. I'm thinking back to when I was in high school and first learning to write an essay. You wouldn't just hand in your first copy as your final draft. There were edits. Other people would read it for you and it would mark it up. This is, I love that you call it a branding statement. And this is your opportunity to showcase to the world in a really concise, impactful way. This is who I am and what I do. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. That was very, 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 very valuable. Something else that you've commented on a couple of times now, people who have helped you along the way. You commented on, your parents and the influence that they had on your childhood. And you talked about the individual who you paid coffee forward to, then became your mentor. Talk to me about the importance of mentors or coaches, or who continues to help you along the way.
So I have a variety of mentors. I became a certified coach the same year that I met the person from LinkedIn who became my mentor over coffee. The people who took me on that journey of coaching, the professional personal coaching certification that I received at the university in Montreal, Concordia, still play a big part in my life today, because I think coaching was one of the top 5 things that I've ever done in my life, just to learn how to be a better person, a better friend, a better wife, a better, you know, LinkedIn coach. I mean, being able to coach and think about people, and having that whole empathy be part of my relationships with people, and the fact that we learn how to guide each other. So they've remained very big in my life. One of my old bosses at the university in Montreal, Concordia, he Jerry Hughes, he was amazing. He and I have to give kudos to him, because he just said, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. And I always remember that line, because it made me just go for things.
Mm-hmm.
I also have I call her soul sister. Her name is Anna Marie Cartwright. She's an elder with the Inuit community. She took one of my wellness workshops, actually, and I think the day she walked in, I knew I was going to be friends with her forever, because this is a woman who has gone through so much in her life, personally, professionally, things that we wouldn't even imagine happening to ourselves. And she's gotten through it, and she's been able to impact others and to teach others real important life skills. So she's kind of like my life coach. So I have a life coach, I have a coach, I just put people into my life that are going to help me to be more of a well-rounded person. And even online, I do the same things. Like, you're part of my people pod. I call them a people pod on LinkedIn. And I am so grateful and so astounded at the people that are in my people pod, because I learn from them every day. Every morning I have my 40 minutes with LinkedIn. That's how I start my day. And it's because I'm so touched, and so I learn so much from the people in my people pod. So I have the people online and I have the people offline, but I believe I'm a strong advocate for having mentors and important people in your life that are going to help you to go on the path of life.
And I ask that question a lot. I think I probably ask that to most people who are on the show, because I think it's so important for everyone, whether they're, doesn't matter where they are in their life, that they have to surround themselves with people who are going to make them better. And then you pay that forward to others as well. But who you surround yourself with, what you surround yourself with, is vital. And those who become successful, those people that we look up to, who we believe are successful, however we want to define that, there's a whole team of people usually behind them, formal and informal. No one gets anywhere alone. And so I think that's so important for those who are interested in making a change, is to look at who you are surrounding yourself with now, and then start reaching out to others who can help take you to where you want to be. So I always love hearing that answer. So far through your life, what's the biggest lesson you've learned?
So I've learned that, again, it's around fear and just doing the jump. But I think, I talk a lot about imposter syndrome. And I think at one point I had it. I no longer have it.
Sorry, I'm going to just pause for a moment. Can you tell us what is imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so imposter syndrome is the idea that there's always somebody better that can do the job, or say something, tell something, offer information, offer insight. There's somebody always better. So in my case, for example, an example could be, there's probably somebody who is better at talking about LinkedIn than I am. And a lot of women suffer more than men do in terms of that imposter syndrome. And incredibly enough, it exists a lot online. And that's how LinkedIn in High Heels came about, because I was meeting all of these powerful women in face-to-face, networking events, just to find out that as soon as I brought up LinkedIn, everything changed.
Did they go small?
They went small. Their heels were like flying somewhere else. There were and the power, like they suddenly became little as opposed to having this presence. And that's where LinkedIn High Heels came about, because I was like, wow, first of all, they don't know how to transfer their stories online. They don't know how to transfer their influence online. They don't know how to own their stories, and they don't know how to take that presence online. So it became very interesting. And that's why I came up with the whole idea behind LinkedIn and High Heels Rise Up and Lead Online, is because I understand it. I get it. I wasn't always like that. But again, I just jumped at it and I said, I know this stuff.
Yeah.
I have influenced people. People have been successful as a result of my coaching, and I'm just as important as anybody else, and I can do the job as anybody else. And I just jumped for it. And now, I get the opportunity to tell people, fight the fear and do it anyway, because that's how you fight imposter syndrome.
I appreciate that you just brought that up, because I'm sure when you first recognized that those feelings you had actually had a name and was a thing, and wasn't a Shelly thing, it was a feeling that others have as well, right away that creates an awareness that, oh my gosh, this isn't just me. And so that almost provides a platform and permission and something to sort of move through. And so that's why I'm so appreciative that you just brought it up, because there'll be people listening right now who have never heard of that before. And I think that's a real gift, that really, without that kind of awareness, we can't do anything differently. And that's the difficult thing with, I've done a lot of work with, and I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I've got a lot of work with diversity and inclusion, and it's a really big passion of mine. And it's, that unconscious bias. So anything that's unconscious, whether it's a bias that we're talking about, whether it's imposter syndrome, or that this unconscious, sorry, not a bias, the unconscious stuff that might be happening, we can't do differently if we don't know. So thank you for bringing that up. And there are lots of really, really simple ways out of that. So from a professional perspective, there are experts like Shelly, as well as myself. There are all sorts of people. So if you recognize that in you, if you're listening right now and recognize that, kudos to you for recognizing it, and commit. I challenge you. This is the second challenge of today, and we're only halfway through the show. I challenge you to do something with that. There's so much power in being aware of something so that you can make a positive change. Something else you've already mentioned, Shelly, is something that you do in the morning. You said you do 20 minutes. Oh, 20 minutes of LinkedIn. It's how you love to start your day. What other tool, habit, or ritual do you have in the morning or throughout your day that you just could not do without?
I walk my dogs. Then I have 40 minutes of LinkedIn, and it's timed. I do not really sway on that 40 minutes. I have my coffee. And then I do 20 minutes of exercise. One day it's mind exercise, and the next day it's physical exercise. I just do 20 minutes where it's focused on me. And then basically I walk down to the subway, and I'm heading for my day. So, but my morning is very, very much into routine. If I could have what Tony Robbins has, I'd have one of those really cool showers. But I don't, so I make the best out of it. But yeah, I just try to get my morning off to a good start. And for me, it's really mixing and mingling with my LinkedIn family, or LinkedIn People Pod, as I like to call it, because it's a way for me to touch base. And I often want to help somebody gets my day off to a good start, so I can help somebody in my community. And yeah, so that really, like, whether I can share or comment or thank or mention, which I tend to do a lot of, it's a way for me to build the community. Because again, coming back to this imposter syndrome just a little bit, if I can be a model online and surround myself with people online who are succeeding with their goals on LinkedIn, then I feel that we can extend that reach by doing that. So every morning, my goal is always, who can I affect today in a positive way, so that LinkedIn can be a really valuable tool for professional and also personal development.
Absolutely. And I this is why I enjoy exploring people like you, who are well known in the LinkedIn community, who we look up to and admire because of the joy, the positivity, and the really tangible stuff that you impart in others to be able to take in their own life and make a positive difference. That's why I like talking to you, to explore what it is that you do in your own life so that you can show up that way as a professional. And so I think that anyone who is successful that we read about, they always have these morning routines. They all have these morning routines. And so that, I think, it's such a simple way to make a difference to your day, each and every day, right? To be grounded in yourself, grounded in your goals, grounded in, the meaningful connections that you may have, and what a fantastic way to set yourself up. I know I have 4 things that I do each morning. It's exercise, it's affirmations, I reread my goals for the week, and I meditate. Meditation for me was, do you meditate at all? Have you tried meditation?
I do. Short meditations. I do it mainly when I'm at the office or at lunchtime when I have a few minutes.
That's good.
Well, there's actually a little park, and it's quiet, believe it or not, in downtown Toronto. But I can actually find that few minutes for me. So I try to do that at some point throughout my day. Yeah, it's really important for me.
Yeah, I to be honest, I really struggled to start meditating. I struggled to find the stillness. I'm a very energetic, sort of, sometimes perhaps a bit of a hyper person, and I think that meant that I needed it even more. And the fact that I struggled with the stillness, I think, suggested that I really needed to keep trying. But I felt like it was hokey. And I think that there's a misconception about what meditation actually is. And so what is it to you, and what does it bring to you?
So meditation is not necessarily being in complete silence or doing any kind of chant or anything like that. It's really about just being in nature and redefining whether it's my day, or whether it's my year, or whether it's just kind of redefining my goals, like you mentioned. It's just a way for me to stay in touch with my day and be present.
Yeah.
So it's not really where I have to even be in complete silence, because like you, I'm kind of more of the hyper energetic type. But it's just taking that time to kind of get away from everything that I'm doing, because I'm always doing a lot of things, and just having the silence in nature and getting back on track with maybe what I need to do in my day or my week, or whatever the case may be. It's just putting myself in that situation where I'm actually thinking about the things that are important to me at the moment, whether it's professionally or personally.
Yeah, and I thanks for explaining it in that way. I think I would have explained it somewhat similarly, but I liked some of the flavor and the take that you took on that. And I'm so grateful that I actually kept at it, because I actually use an app, and there are many apps out there, but I actually use an app to sort of help me stay sort of focused for that 10 minutes. And that, like you were suggesting, I really find keeps me centered and focused. Being an entrepreneur, if I'm not centered and focused on the right things, I'm not going to be serving others in the way that I want to. And then, quite honestly, bills aren't going to get paid. So it is a really valuable tool. And I think that all of us are looking for this secret, this little magic pill to make us happy or make us successful. And it really is, as I have learned and am continuing to learn, it's being consistent with these little things that keep you centered, focused, and true to you and how you want to be. And that's why I was just curious about meditation, to see if that was of value to you. And I'm not surprised to hear that it is. So tell us that, you have talked about some of your mentors and the people that have helped you along the way. Who inspires you the most?
I have a few people that who inspire me, I should say. I really like Brene Brown. I have her book in front of me every day. There's that one, and there's this one.
Oh, so for those of you listening, as opposed to watching on Facebook Live, which we are on the Contact Talk Radio Facebook page, both Shelly and I are holding up to one another, and to those watching on Facebook, our Brene Brown books. Shout out to Brene Brown.
She's pretty special, just because it's all about she focuses so much on embracing yourself. And I think that there are a few things that I've done. So she's one of them. What she's written in, The Gifts of Imperfection has allowed me to just embrace all of that.
Yeah.
To Nancy Chernov, who is a fire walker trainer. She is the creator of the Fearless Flame. So I don't know if you know, but I fire walk every year.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yes, I fire walk every year. So she has inspired me because she is one of those people who, she's a fire walking expert and trainer. And I have learned so much from her, and to just be able to do that, and that's how I kind of align my goals for the year. Some people have the bucket list, like you mentioned on one of your posts this morning, and some people do their New Year's resolutions. I walk on fire.
You're kind of freaking me out right now. So you got to tell us a little bit more about this, Shelly.
So the Fearless Flame is about, it's a whole day. It's the walking on fire is the last thing you do. The first thing you do is pretty much break a piece of wood with your hand, with your fist, I should say. The second thing is taking an arrow and breaking it with your neck muscle. And the third thing is walking on fire. So, but it's really about learning yourself and challenging yourself and doing something that you would never ever do. And so a lot of people, when I talk to them about walking on fire, they're like, "Oh, I would never do that." And it is nerve-wracking the first time, but then you learn that it's always mind over matter, and so you do it. And so Nancy's been an integral part of my life, because she is the queen of that I know, at least, walking on fire. And then the third person would be Amy Cuddy. I had the opportunity to meet her because she came to Rotman School of Management a couple of years ago, when I first started at the University of Toronto. And everything that she has to do with confidence and presence just brings everything to light that I work to do with who I work for. So I work with confidence online, but a lot of it is really just taking all those things that you do offline and transferring them. So I would say that those three are the people that really they're with me all the time. What they say is with me all the time.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of learning. I mean, we both are. You're from from the education field and work in it still today. I think there's so much we can learn from one another. And when you surround yourself with the right kind of people and ask who motivates or inspires them and where they learn from and who they learn from, there's just a magnificent wealth of knowledge. I think I was naive. Obviously, we all are, I think, to a certain extent when we're young. I thought learning stops when you finish school, and little did I know it was just beginning, and for which I'm extremely, extremely thankful. So for those listening right now who don't have a mentor, who are looking for a mentor, what advice would you have to those listeners? How would you recommend they go out for trying to find one?
So I think, finding out what you like to do. And then, so for example, I wanted to firewalk. I did some research, and by the way, Louise, I can send that information to you if you'd like to firewalk. Because
I think I need to give it a go.
it's outside Montreal. And so what happened is that I did my research because it was something that was on my bucket list, and I thought if I can do it, then I'm going to meet people that are like-minded and want to do it. And of course, that entire day there were like 20, 25 people there, and those are people that I'm still connected with today.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then Nancy's become a friend, not just, you know, the firewalking queen, but become a friend. So I think number one, you can find those people offline by getting involved in something that you want, that you really want to adventure into or find out more about. Online, I can't tell you how many people influence me online and that I learn from every day, you included. So, I mean, how I did that online is that I decided that I wanted to be a people pod. I wanted to create a people pod. So for me, it's not about numbers. You know, because of the business that I'm in and because I'm on LinkedIn, I could have 30,000 or 40,000, but it's not about numbers, it's about connection. So I have quite a big network, but it's a network made up of people that I've gotten to know or who I've been introduced to or have been in the same group as, or people that I've just reached out to because I truly like the content that they put out there. And so through that, there are a number of mentors that I have online, and hopefully I become a mentor to some people as well. And so I think it's just putting yourself in the situation where you are a little bit picky about who you want to develop relationships with and finding those like-minded people, and they will come. They will come. It will be a natural attraction but again, you have to put yourself out there.
You do, and it's beautiful what happens when you do step into the fear, the doors that present themselves, the doors that then open with ease. And those are the doors you're meant to step through, even though they may be scary. And I have learned to ask myself, I quickly know whether it's a door I go through or not. When I ask myself, is this going to take me further to or farther away from who I want to be, my goals and my dreams?
Yeah.
And then the answer is pretty clear. And so then regardless of how scared I may be, I go through the door. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I contrast that with earlier in my life where the doors, I've had to push so hard to get them to open. And I now recognize, not with regret, because I'm who I am now because of those experiences, but I recognize now that the universe was trying to tell me this isn't the right door for you. But then persistent Louise, and I think that's a great quality of mine in that moment, not sure that persistence was actually the best quality to be leaning on. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think it's really a really fascinating journey. Life is, and when you move in the direct, when you're clear on who you are and how you want to show up, and what your goals are, which do change through your life, and you go through those doors that open with ease. It's a really beautiful experience. Doesn't mean there aren't obstacles. There are obstacles all the time that present themselves. So how do you move through the obstacles that maybe share with us, an obstacle that comes to mind that was pretty significant, and how do you move past that?
So I'll continue on my LinkedIn thing. And I realized that, when I first got on LinkedIn, I thought, okay, LinkedIn's different. It's a professional networking site. I'm not going to have those people who are, they've been recognized as trolls or negative people or people that want to cause drama. And I was kind of like, I got to remember, I come from a small town. All the doors are open, right? Like people. And so online, I was kind of like, people can just come in. And then I realized that whether it's online or offline, you're always going to have that you're going to be faced with people that want to create drama and want to challenge you, maybe in a negative way. And that can be a little bit upsetting. Mm-hmm. And it I've seen people actually remove their accounts as a result.
Mm.
So I've just given myself zero tolerance for that type of thing. And it's not about diverse opinions, for sure
Yes.
not. Like diverse opinions, that happens all the time. But I have come across, and not often, I've been pretty lucky, compared to some other people who have had some pretty negative experiences. But I have a zero tolerance to people that want to be negative and create unnecessary drama. I don't have it in my offline life, and I certainly
Yeah.
don't want it in my online life. So there's a blocking.
Yeah.
LinkedIn,
Feature.
LinkedIn put a blocking feature for a reason, and I can honestly say in my time on LinkedIn, I've only maybe blocked 6 people, which I've been on since since it began. So I don't consider that a bad record.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that I have control over that and that I can do that, because I want it to be a positive experience, and I want it to be a positive experience for the other people that I'm interacting with. So I take full advantage of that if I have to, because
Yeah.
I have zero tolerance. So I think what has happened is just getting up the gumption and the idea that I can do that, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I come from a small place where you kind of just like everybody. You just
Yeah.
the nucleus, and you don't have any, you kind of like everybody. So I had to learn, because I
Right.
moved from there to the big city, and it was very different. And then moving into the kind of career that I have online with LinkedIn, I've learned that I can only control myself, but at the end of the day, the beauty in this platform is that I can always also control who comes into my LinkedIn life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's interesting when you were saying, you come from a small town where doors literally and figuratively are open, right? Very, very, very much so. And so we all have to be able to give ourselves permission to set those personal boundaries. And that does change over time as we change, as our jobs change, as the people in our lives change, sometimes by choice and sometimes not by choice. We all have the opportunity to make those decisions for ourselves, even though that may be difficult at times. So we are getting to the top of the hour, and I want to talk a little bit more now. Those listening who are thinking, this Shelly woman is incredible, yeah, and yes, she is. What does she actually do? And how may I be able to, and who does she do it for? So who do you help, and what do you do with them? And how do they know that they were the right kind of person to reach out to you?
So I work a lot with, I do a lot with LinkedIn and high heels, because I feel that women are, the people that I definitely want to stand behind and empower. And I don't mean just, leaders of today, but those aspiring leaders. I guess that's why I took the job at the university when asked, because I thought this will give me a chance to empower all the students at the business school that I work with, but also give me a chance to empower these aspiring women leaders.
Yeah.
So I like to do a lot with that. I still do a lot of workshops in person, because again, I'm this kind of like character. And I feel like, especially LinkedIn and high heels, I can actually get people up and more involved. I work with executive and corporate groups, because a lot of corporate groups want their departments to understand and navigate LinkedIn in the right way. I do some online podcasts and different things regarding LinkedIn. I don't have the time as much as I used to do one-on-one coaching anymore with regards to LinkedIn, but I do a lot of group coaching with regards to helping people on LinkedIn.
And so what's the best way for people to reach you?
So LinkedIn
This
is a great
I
way.
thought it would be, I just didn't want to assume.
It's a great way for people to connect with me because it's not only my business, it's where I show the most of who I am and what I do. And then I also have my website, Linked Express, one word, linked, linkedexpress.ca. So people can also go there if they'd like to find out more information about LinkedIn and high heels or about what I do with Linked Express.
Fantastic. I am shocked to say that our time has come to an end, an hour has passed. I had an absolute blast with you, Shelly. I think you're a truly remarkable human being making waves. I've mentioned that to you before, making tidal waves in such a positive manner on the LinkedIn platform, and no doubt elsewhere in your life. And I just want to say thank you so sincerely for spending this time with me, taking this time out of your day to share with me and with the listening audience.
Thank you, Louise, for having me. I'll say like they say on LinkedIn, awesome sauce.
I love it. So at this time as well, I'd like to thank all my loyal listeners and followers and remind you that information about me, my show, and my guests like Shelly today can be found at louisehreed.com. Also, a big shout out to everyone at Contact Talk Radio, especially my kick-ass producer, Cameron Steele. And finally, I'm here each week at this time to highlight and showcase people who are taking brave, bold action, whose actions truly have a positive impact in our world. With that said, I'd like to encourage you all to be brave, be bold, and be happy. And with today's final challenge, like with Shelly, it all started with paying a coffee forward. I'd like to challenge you to bravely pay a coffee forward and see what magic happens in your life. Until next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing you all an amazing day. Bye-bye.